Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
High energy there, Jeremy. This is
No.
Amar with ZenMade.
I have energy because today we're talking about prices.
Oh, yes. Raising prices, charging people more money, making more money. Good stuff. Good stuff. When's the last time that you raised your prices, Jeremy?
I can't recall, but I think it's more than 5 years.
Okay.
What about you? Last week?
No, we changed our prices in January of 2019.
Oh, I like the idea of every January kind of thing, but I'm not sure if I like it from a customer standpoint.
Yeah. So it's been, it's kind of crazy. It's been, I guess, three years now. Since we've raised our prices, which it feels like just yesterday that we bumped up like the prices. But one thing that it's important to note there is we didn't just increase our prices, we changed the entire way the pricing model works. So we went from like a flat fee for features to usage-based pricing. And then more recently, if you want to consider it a pricing change, we have added in a free plan. So we do offer a 100% free plan now as well. And I think that was introduced, I think beginning of last year, maybe. I don't remember exactly when.
During pause. Yeah, there's so many things to talk about increasing prices. I remember I started with $9 a month, but that only lasted 4 days. Because when I saw like, oh yeah, people are buying it. Let's see, is this thing worth $21? And so I moved it to $21. And then, people kept buying. And from there, every time there is a raise, it's always like an emotional struggle to some extent, or emotional, there's a fee at the same time of raising your prices. But I know that from an MRR's perspective, which is the monthly recurring revenue, it's always the best decision ever because you see like a massive boost every time. Although I never went probably too high because I wonder how it happens when you actually go too high and you sort of have to backpedal. Have you had that? Have you experienced that already?
Really early on, we jumped out and we're trying to charge between $100 and $200 a month and kind of had to backpedal from there. But we didn't have many people that were using the software and knew who we were or anything like that. So that wasn't a huge deal. But no, I don't think that that's a big deal at all. Like, it's easy to go back on your pricing, right? Like, what you're not concerned about going back on your pricing, you're concerned about like your ego. If you like said you were going to raise the prices and then we're like, oh no, I was wrong and I made like the wrong decision, right? Or whatever, right? But it's really nothing more than that. Like, I think that, yeah, changing your pricing is very reversible. It's just as easy to drop your prices as it is to raise them, right? Like, you're not going to saying, hey, we made a mistake, but that's like really the worst.
It's not totally that for me. So my ego, like, I think you know that for a long time already, but my ego is not really something I try to protect much. And for me, it's more like when, we say to people like, hey, this is the price. And then after that, you sort of like change it to their disadvantage. I think to me, that's kind of a broken promises in a sense, or like feeling, not feeling that we're cheating.
Do you tell them that that's their price for life?
No, of course not. This is not the point. It's like if, for example, it's like if you get people, on a $200 a month plan, and then next week you say, actually, no, let's put it back to $100. Then there's a whole things like that goes, right?
What like, who cares?
Well, I think for me, this is also a relationship caring, right? So it's like it's just a sort of admittance that we cheated you, kind of thing. That's what I think.
I don't think. Yeah, okay. I think you're projecting a massive amount there. I don't think
of course I am.
I don't think that it's reasonable at all to think that you're being judged in that way just because you change price.
I don't care about being judged. It's more like
no. But what you just said was like a very kind of judgmental way of thinking about the actual issue. Yes. So I don't mean like you judging, but I don't think it's fair to think that anyone would be judging you that way. Like, and yeah, I mean, to me, it's a part of doing business, right? Like, we don't know what the right prices are. Everyone makes mistakes. If you have customers that aren't understanding that, like, you made a mistake by like raising the prices too much, they probably
So
shouldn't.
what do you do if they actually don't mention it before a year and then they realize, or some stuff like that, or months and then they realize? What do you?
What, that you lowered the price or that you raised the price?
No, that I lowered the price and I left them on the high price, for example.
Oh, well, so that's something that's all about. So first of all, that's not going to affect that many people, right?
Yeah,
What you're
sure.
saying about, like, oh, like, it affects relationships. Like, you don't have a sales team. You don't have much, like, in terms of relationships, in terms of like one-to-one, like kind of stuff in your company, because it's mainly like self-serve, right? Like, that's not going to rub people like the wrong way. It will rub people the wrong way if you're providing other people the same service for less money, and it's not under like the guise of a discount or something like that, right? So like, when we sold one person at $149 a month, and to this day they still pay us $99 a month, because we had to go back to them and be like, hey, we know that you guys agreed to pay 149, but we've decided on a lower price point for exactly like what you're getting, and that's
So
what
that's
we're going to
nice.
sell it to other people,
So
right?
I think that's, treating people right, I think.
But the whole thing is that I think that you need to be thinking on a much bigger level, and that, like, for me, I don't care if 100 of my customers' feelings are hurt, or they feel that it's unfair that we made some change that makes sense from a business perspective and essentially gives us money to reinvest into the product to make their experience better and all that stuff. Now, I can say that
Sure.
I have 1,500 like clients. Like, another thing to keep in mind is that, like, like, for you, I think you have the resources to put in that money. So for you, it might feel like, oh, I'm just charging them more money
Sure.
for the sake of charging them more money. For me, charging my clients more money directly means that I can do more for them.
Yeah,
Like, there's a very direct correlation between that. And I explain that when we do like price, increases. But the whole thing is, I think it's all about framing. There's nothing wrong with you coming out and having a price that's too high and then coming back on it. There will be a problem with how that's communicated. And so if you communicate it well, you can take those chances.
No,
and so
absolutely.
I think
And it's also how you vision and you see the thing. Like for me, for a very long time, for me, like, I'm always trying to find the right price for the thing, right? So, I will shop around, I will say, oh, this is too high, so I don't, I don't buy it, and this is too low. Where you're much more like, does that save me time to actually go over that sort of thing? But for me, it's all about, like, price needs to be fair, right? And I know this is probably wrong in that frame, but if you come from the point of, like, it has to be fair, and I think our prices are really fair. I think they are probably like too fair at the moment. Like, well, not too fair, but I think they're probably on the lower side of what they should be or what they could be. But if you come to that point, like, we don't negotiate. Like, we say, look, this is what we have on a website. We think the price are fair. That's why you put it that way. So if you don't think there is value, then don't buy it. And, it's maybe it's a way to get around all that sort of like back and forth negotiation, having different prices for different customers and stuff like that. But I think that's one of the advantages that I like, is like, that sort of like fairness of prices, right? Even though it's totally relative, it's totally on the.
But I don't okay. So two things there. So first of all, I don't really see what that has to do with raising your prices, right?
Not at all. I can raise my price. This is more like, having.
But the whole thing is, like,
think the price is fair here, and you charge someone above, that means that obviously this is unfair.
The whole thing is that just because, like, fair is a massive range.
Yes.
Right.
I agree.
So you can increase within that range, and you don't have to justify that to anyone, right? So that's what I mean. Like, I don't really see. I'm not seeing the connection here between like that like. Yeah, like, I think
I'm only talking about the backpedaling, right? It's only like going back lower and so on, and just.
I really think you should forget about the backpedaling thing. I think that you're making out the worst case scenario in your head. You're turning that into a big thing. But seriously, right? You shouldn't be thinking about backpedaling, right? Like, think about what happens if it goes right, or how do you make sure that it goes right? But like,
and we can talk about that, because I raised prices probably 4 or 5 times in the life of QuickMail, even for most of the changes were at the beginning. Right?
But just remember that most people don't care about that. right? You've got to
About
think
what?
about this as like about like most people don't care how often you've raised prices, right? Like they
No,
just care about paying for the value that like that they
absolutely,
get, right?
absolutely, and I think
So
that's important.
the one thing that I would just say there is like, so yeah, the two things are like, I don't know how relevant the fair conversation is, but like, I also don't like, I think that a lot of times like the words that are being used are so important here. And when you refer to your current pricing as fair, it on a subconscious level, it makes it sound like increasing your prices is going to be unfair, right?
Potentially, but not necessarily.
Well,
Right.
but the whole
Let me
thing,
ask you a
like,
question first. Have you ever felt cheated by buying one thing? Like, did you buy something and you felt cheated?
yes.
Okay, so that means in that case, the price was not fair because the value you gain were not actually, in line with the actual money you paid.
I'm not saying that there's no such thing as like fair and unfair. I get that
Okay,
concept, but I'm saying that when we're talking about prices on a scale and you go, my current pricing is fair, on a subconscious level, you're arguing that like increasing your prices might be unfair. And the
Great.
whole thing is like that. I don't think that's like a good way of thinking about it because it makes it way too black and white. To me, everything is about value, right? And that like there's a range, I mean, it's kind of like, it's like economics of like kind of like supply and demand. If there's a range of value that your customer is willing to pay, and then there's the range of value that you're willing to accept to deliver like your service, and you find the middle ground between those two, and like ideally you want it to be at the upper end of that range so you get the most money, but they're still feeling like they're getting
a lot of value. Of course, 100%. And I think at the moment, I think my customers are getting a lot of value.
Yeah.
And I don't think we capture as much as we should, in that sense. So, but it's funny, we started with like the hardest thing because I'm like all in favor of raising your prices. How have you been raising your prices? Like how many times in the past? What are some of the learning lessons that you had from raising your prices?
We've only raised our prices a couple of times actually. And currently we're not because I think we like kind of the psychological aspect of the pricing that we have currently, but essentially we started out early on where I was doing like one-to-one sales and was just kind of experimenting with the price point. So depending on kind of what I thought people would be willing to pay, I would make them like a quote. And so we started with a couple people at like $19, $29. Then at some point we just made the decision that we weren't going to charge anyone less than $49, right? Which is something that I still stand by today.
I love it. I really love this idea of like, here's my floor.
Exactly.
Right? This is my floor pricing.
Don't serve you for anything less than that. Although it is funny because now we actually have free users, but we still won't like it. It's free or they have to pay $50 or more so that they value the software. And there's no in between. And so, yeah, then at some point, I think we went to like 49 and 99, depending on features. And I know at some point we kind of made it so it was a little bit more scalable and it went 99 or 49. Sorry, 49.99, 149, 199, right? So just up by $50 increments. And then about 3 years ago, we changed the pricing to per user. So now it's 49 and plus a set amount per cleaner. So I do think that like psychologically, I think we really like having that below $50 price point, that makes it very affordable to most like real business owners, right?
Oh no. We lost Emma. Let me pause for a second. Okay, and we are back live. Go for it, Emma. You were saying.
Sorry about that, guys. Got a little internet interruption there and a hiccup. Yeah, so I was saying that so at some point we bumped our prices. We added more sort of by like size, so in 49.99, 149, 199, and then about 3 years ago we changed to our usage-based model, and that's $49 a month plus $9 per employee per month. And so I think there's something nice about the $49 that we charge less than $50 as like the base price. So I've kind of been hesitant. Like I feel like the logical thing would be to just bump that, by $10 and make it $59 a month plus $9 an employee. But then, that kind of penalizes the little guys more and more. And so the other thing is we can mess with kind of the per employee pricing. And right now it's quite clean, but I also realize that most people just know that our employee pricing goes up as they add more cleaners, most people don't really realize that it's $9 because it's not like $10 even. And so I think it's a little bit easier to lose track. So I'm half in mind to just like bump us to $12 or $13 an employee and just like see how that works for a couple of months.
Yeah, that made me think of the ramen psychology in Japan. So if you go to a ramen shop, there is a psychological barrier about 1,000 yen, right?
Yeah.
So you will always find like ramen below that. It's really hard for the shop owner to actually break above this barrier, and it's only like $10, which is super good for us. But of course, their profitability is not that big because of this sort of like psychological barrier, and we have to take into account inflation, and especially now it's very relevant what's going to happen with inflation. And I think we're gonna see like lots of sort of a lot of SaaS actually just keeping on updating their prices in the next coming years. That's unavoidable. But I'm wondering what would be the next limit. Will it be like maybe $5 or $10 is not so much a difference anymore? Maybe we'll move to $50 or $100 or whatever it is. And the other thing that it reminded me is Nick from Shark Mogul, when he actually say like, it's always free, but when you start paying, it's already $100. It's like the first step is $100 a month. There's no plan in between, which was like a bit scary in a sense. You kind of thinking like, but at the same time, they ensure they got like the right customers, right?
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that that's what Nick has like landed upon now. Right. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is it wasn't something that was scary that they did. It's they already saw people that were paying them $100 a month, like comfortably for the value. The same thing that we do, right? Because like ZenMaid, adding a free plan wasn't scary. We already knew people valued our software at the numbers that they paid us. And we added in a free plan essentially as like a marketing or a lead gen tool, right? So I mean, I think that's actually an important lesson for folks like listening is, you never know where your competition is and where other people are in sort of their pricing journey. So I see a lot of people just assuming that their competition that's been around for years just knows what they're doing with pricing or has done a lot of experiments and stuff like that. And so the whole thing is you don't know if they're in the middle of an experiment. You don't know if they're going to change their pricing because it's actually not working. And so, and then like how everyone arrives at their pricing is also very, very different. Right.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that because I haven't changed my prices in 5 years, I've seen a lot come and go. And talking about competitors, I've seen one competitor starting with a $9 a month deal, like way cheaper than QuickMail at the time. Which, by the way, I think the minimum is $49, and then we got $69. But then now I've seen plans with these $100 and more, and I'm like, that's funny. Like they kept on raising their prices, and they're not necessarily any better in terms of the product and the value they're generating, but that does happen, which is interesting. The other thing is, maybe we could discuss briefly on that as well. Like I've done for probably the first time, or maybe I did one in the past, but I can't recall. We done a small Black Friday offer just to try it out. And one customer, and it was only like for new customers, like if you buy 1 month and we give you like 2 extra months. But then one customer say like, what are you doing for the existing customers? And I say, well, technically nothing in terms of the deal, right? But then he was complaining and so on. I'm like, dude, we've been developing the software for 5 years. We haven't raised the prices. He's also on the grandfather plan, which we should talk about, like grandfathering as well. And he still managed to complain. I was like, WTF, man, WTF. Like,
well,
like,
but
I just, that, and they want that and that and that and that. It's like, yeah, I should just go and raise my prices, straight away.
Yeah. No, it's funny because sometimes it's those clients that just just get you with that. I mean, like I fired a client this morning because she started making snarky comments. She messaged us in the middle of the night, didn't get a response, solved the issue herself, and then was like, oh, like real great support that I'm getting here for the amount that I pay you. And I'm just like, you don't even pay us $85 a month, and you message us from Australia.
Oh, but you should tell them like, oh, you probably didn't see, but we have a $500 a month package that do include, phone support. Do you want to go on it?
Yeah. No, the problem with that is we've thought about doing that. And the problem with that is we don't want to give those people like the best support, right? Like we want to give our best support to the best clients, right? And like
Yeah.
even paying more money, like we wouldn't want to do phone support and stuff. But yeah, I mean it's unappreciated and stuff. And we had that as well. We were actually prepared for that. I wish that I'd actually talked to you about that, because what we did was we made it so that there was a sign up bonus that if you signed up during the Black Friday sale, then you would get access to like 2 or 3 of our paid resources that we have that we've already sold like a lot of or whatever. And so then when someone said, oh, what about for your current clients? It's, oh, well, you can just have those resources for free, right? And then like the one thing that I was expecting is I was expecting someone to complain and to be like, oh, like I already bought these resources and I'm a ZenMaid customer, so what are you going to do for me? And like, I think it was like from the Netflix book where they were talking about how, like, you know, if you say that you're going to pay for public transport for all of your employees to get into work, that's a nice
people
perk.
will say, well, but if I don't take, what are you going to
exactly.
do?
And that's the whole thing of like, that's not taking anything away from the people that have chosen to drive. It's making it more convenient for a subset of like of the employees. And that's kind of what I go. I mean, like, I don't owe you anything. Like if you find ZenMaid valuable, then pay for it. And like if you're gonna quit because I won't give you the same deal that I'm giving to new customers that are signing up, so you're gonna go and reevaluate another software and then change over to it, like be my guest, right? Like I don't care, but we do try to go out of our way to be fair. But I'm very much just like, it's like the benevolent dictator thing, right? Of like, I try to be as good and as fair as possible, but I take absolutely no shit from like.
I mean, you can't please everyone, right?
I never do. I mean, I never do, at least. I mean,
I don't even sort of try. But I think I've been like too much on one side. Like in the past, people were like complaining about like, hey, I think your prices are a bit expensive. But it's like, yeah, but do you complain that Rolls Royce are more expensive than a Fiat Punto? No, right? It's like, it's a given. But you will have people that complain like, hey, I'd love to have a Rolls Royce, but it costs too much. Like, fair enough. But I recently,
there are people that'll buy the Pinto or whatever, and will still complain about the price there, and that's what
that's true.
Some people just complain about price no matter what. Like no matter what.
The point is, like recently, I didn't hear that many complain, which indicates to me that we are probably like falling on the sort of like behind in terms of what people expect to pay for those sort of like value or the value it starts to create.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Yes. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think that you've got a lot of room to move here. And actually, one interesting thing to talk about is, so what we did is we raised our prices in January of 2019 for all new users. And then we spent the following like maybe 8 months or so slowly migrating folks over to the new pricing from the old pricing. Yeah. And we did give people like existing customers discounts, but because we were changing the entire pricing scheme, we had to get everyone over to the new plans. And so there were no grandfathered plans, right? That you got a discount, you got a better rate than people that were signing up today because you'd been with us for longer, but you did not get to keep your price of $49 and stuff like that. And we played hardball and we lost a couple customers.
Yeah, but that's great. That's a fantastic idea. So let's look at someone who effectively needs to migrate their prices. What are some of the strategy around? I love obviously the idea of grandfathering because for me, it's like the customer took also a bet on you at the beginning. And so, for me, it's kind of like fair to them to keep them. And yeah, okay, I put some pause. All right, he's back. So let me restate my argument. So I think it's pretty nice to have like, people in the past, they took a decision to go with you because they evaluated everything, the pricing in regards to the value they're getting, plus they take a bet on you. They don't know if you will be there 1 year later, especially when you're a small startup and so on. For all those reasons, and also, you create some goodwills. For all those reasons, I do like to keep the grandfather. But I do love what you're doing, which is at some point, if you're actually restructuring everything, right, it's like, well, sorry, guys, you're going to have to move to the next structure. And then you're going to make a decision into like, do you actually want to go into this new structure or you don't? But nothing prevents you to effectively give them still a discount. It's like, hey, we value you staying for a long time with us, so we still give you a discount, but you're going to have to move. And yes, It may mean more money, in the end or whatever, but this is because, we improve so much the software. And so you're going to have to redo an evaluation. And if you're fine with that, and I think this is a very fair situation, then I think that's good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that it's definitely not the most fun. Like if you raise your prices, you are going to get pushback from a small subset of your customers. And I hope that this actually kind of puts people's minds at ease, but you can count on that, right? Like that is going to happen no matter how perfectly you do it.
Yep.
So like stop worrying about it and just do it, right? You've just got to figure out what's best for your business. I think I told you this when we were in Paris, Jeremy, that I did the math on it. And at the end of 2019, if we had kept the former pricing, we would have been, I think, around maybe it was 48K or something like that.
Yeah, I remember.
And because we had changed the pricing, I checked the revenue and we were making, I think it was 63K a month at the end of that. So it was about a 15K difference. And that was only over an 8 month or so. Sorry.
Plus you have to compound it, right? Which means to this day, you will also have an even bigger gap and so on.
Exactly.
But I think it's very important. One thing we could tell people is also some of the easy do, right? One thing that you can do as well, if you're sort of guilty of that. And I think I got some ideas on how we're going to raise prices going forward, because I think 2022 is going to be raising pricing for quick mail. So if you're listening to that, jump on the deal right now, get a yearly deal, and I probably promise to you that it's probably not going to change. Yeah. Small disclaimer, but I don't believe we're going to change the prices if you go on a subscription, especially yearly. But the point is that if you go and raise your prices, one thing you can do that makes everyone happy, and it could have happened also in your situation, and maybe you already did it, but you say, guys, thanks for being, a valued customers of ZenMail or QuickMail, whatever. Next year or in the next 6 months, we are going to raise our prices. So if you want more, if you want to add more customers, or if you want to create more accounts, do it now, because then you will lock in the price as grandfathered, right? And so I think that's a nice way of giving people a heads up so they can reevaluate with the new price. Do they maybe want to, increase their investment that they probably would have done later down the line and still feel it's a good deal? Right. So I think those sort of communication works very well.
Yeah. It just depends on what you want to do. Because I also don't think that you have to do that. I don't think that you have to other people in. Absolutely. But if you're going to, if you can find a way to make your current customers feel like they're getting a deal, even if you still end up bumping them up and making them pay full price, even just giving them 6 months at their current rates or something like that, where you just go, hey, every new user is now paying us this much, and whatever. I think that definitely goes a long way, but it's more about that feeling that they're getting a better kind of
or you consider them. And I think most of the time when there is price increases, it's no one really cared about me, it was just their sort of greedy needs or whatever that actually comes. So involving them in a process that way. And it doesn't mean you have to give in. It's I know it's going to be more expensive. I'm really sorry about that, but this is what we need, going forward for the business as well. We give you the opportunity to do X, Y, Z. It's, it's considering, your users as, as people of value, right? Instead of just saying your code is important to us. And by the way, we raise your price next month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing for us, so I mentioned that we went to usage-based pricing, but it's funny because we were talking about value earlier on the pod, and I really think about everything in terms of value-based pricing. So if you're listening to this and you've been in business for a couple of years now and you're rethinking your pricing, you probably have a lot more information about your customers and about your target market now than the last time that you thought about about your pricing and everything. And so what I would be trying to figure out is, where do your customers get the value? Where is it that when they do more of X, or when they use more of X part of your system, that's where they make more money or happier, save more time, whatever it might be? And what is directly what's most directly tied to the value of your system? And then you have to combine that with the question of what's simple enough. And so what I mean by that is, if we were truly going value-based pricing, we would price ZenMail per appointment.
you'll need a PhD or per
No,
appointment.
it
You
would
would
be
okay.
per appointment. Yeah, it would be per appointment because each appointment that they put in,
Of
that's
course, that
what
brings them value.
saves them time between the cleaners, between the clients, all that. So every appointment they have in the system, we
Yeah.
save them more and more time. The problem is that most companies that are coming and looking at us, they don't know how many appointments they have on like a monthly basis. So it's
Yeah, your
hard to
industry is
explain to them
not
the pricing, right?
pricing based on that, so
Yeah.
that's harder for them to compare and understand the
Right.
pricing.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of places that do that you see a lot of examples online of people that do really good like simple pricing where you just understand the pricing, and a lot of like indie hackers go, well, that's part of my value proposition. It's like, that's not part of your value
Variable pricing is
proposition.
always very
Yeah.
difficult for
It
business
doesn't
owners.
hurt, but it's not part of your value proposition, right? Like it makes the buying decision easier, but it's not an actual value to like to the customer. And then on the flip side of that, you've got Intercom, which is like the most value-based pricing that I've ever seen, and you just have no idea what you're going to pay on any given month.
They want your money.
So I hate Intercom's pricing. I've told them that multiple times. It's purposely convoluted, but they do a very good job of extracting every
As
dollar
much
out of
value
it.
as they can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. But they do it in a really like dirty way that makes me want to find like a better option. I'm just not going to, which speaks to how good like their product is, right? Which is painful to say.
Or how much their claw is within, is on your business.
Well, that's what I mean. We get a ton of value from it, right? And like it's not easy for us to replace the value that we get from Intercom. And so in that sense, their pricing is very good. But I mean, I don't like recommending them because of this. So like, it's good, but it's also bad.
Yeah, it's funny. They generated so much hate when they actually just removed all the grandfathers. Like we had a friend, you and I know her, like Esther. She was on the Intercom plan. Like she was so happy she's been grandfathered, because obviously they kept on raising the price so much. And at some point, say like, nope, we're not grandfathering you anymore. This is the new price. And she was like so unhappy. And yeah, sure.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the whole thing, is like when you make business decisions like that, they're not focused on Esther, right? They're focused on like overall,
That's
right?
true. You could argue for that, she probably would turn up as a zombie. A zombie, for those who's listening, is just people that keeps paying you without using the software, and nothing that could have been a valid zombie kind of thing, because she had to cancel, a subscription. But at the same time, she wasn't doing anything with it. So
the whole thing is that think about how many folks that were in her situation that were actually getting value out of the product. How many of them would have to upgrade in order to make up for her not being happy, right? Like I can see Intercom, like there's nothing wrong with that. If she's not willing to pay, that's fine, right? But like, we shouldn't be optimizing for zombies, right?
Zombies make your life easier, Amar. But we should do a podcast on zombies another day. So are you gonna raise your price next year?
Yeah, I think we are. And so I think we should probably wrap this up like soon, but the couple things that I have in mind is, like I was saying about bumping up like the prices, but one thing that we've been considering doing for some time, which you might appreciate, I don't know if it's clever yet or not, but what we're thinking about doing is we're thinking about adding in quarterly options for pricing instead of annual. We still don't like
not fun. It makes more
but
complication.
what we're planning on doing is we're planning on introducing quarterly options that are at the same price as we currently have them, right? So there's no discount for signing up like quarterly, right? Or compared to right now. And what that does is that helps us with our cash flows. So when someone converts after 2 weeks, we collect 3 months revenue up front, which makes a big difference to our cash flow.
But you have no possibilities to buy monthly. So it's 3 months by 3 months.
Well, that's what we're thinking about doing. Or we're thinking about introducing a more expensive quarterly option. So we would do that across the board, a more expensive monthly option. So we go across the board. Everyone's prices are now $49 plus $13 a month per employee. Here's what your new price is going to be. If you want to stay on your current pricing, then switch to quarterly. And if we did that, then we would probably collect $200,000 or $300,000 in a single month from our current customer base.
I like that for this idea. Yeah, if you pay monthly, then you're gonna get a bit more expensive, which helps you with the easiness of raising your prices, and then you can see how much actually do go for the quarterly versus how much stay on the monthly, and you probably will find your limit into where the price really is, a price sensibility. I mean, this is a great idea. I like the experiment of that. It will Yeah, it depends as well what you're trying to solve. If you're trying to solve, like, if you were like one of those shady product that, you know, people sign up for, and after 1 week they think it's trash and they will never really you know, renew their subscriptions. Well, you have some products like that lock you for a year, like you have to buy 1 year, you know, their
Yeah.
products. But I like the way you're doing it for price discovery. I think this is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the other thing is just taking away the monthly option and just moving it to quarterly, because we are also just comfortable with like
We could do that in stage, right? Because if, for example, you bump it up like $10, I mean, you've got an incredible like churn rate. Your churn rate is super low, which is awesome for that type of experiment.
Well, it's not, it's been super low this month only. I wouldn't say that
You
it's
don't
good
have to
the rest of the
disclose
time.
it on a podcast, but it's still better than mine, right? Due to the nature of the system, right?
I'm trying to remember what your churn rate is. Okay, yeah.
I don't know it off by heart, but I
Okay.
think it's about like 10% or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So we're at like 5 to 6%.
But it's wrong. It's less than 10% because 10% is on subscription, is not on the customer. So it's not logo churn, right? It's like subscription, which means an agency could, you know, buy 10 accounts, then churn 2, then buy 3 1, and that will count as churn for us, which is completely wrong, right? It's not logo churn.
I mean, I think that's getting into details. I mean, I think like ballpark
We
that
got
number
it.
is fine. Yeah.
But so the point is that with a good, you know, churn rate, then you can definitely, you know, do that sort of like strategy, which is you get them pay more on a monthly basis, because you know if they go on it, then they will pay the extra cash for longer anyway, right?
Yeah.
So no harm, no foul, right? Compared to the current version, I think it's a great idea. I may actually consider that, honestly. Like if you pay for 6 months, then you got the actual current price that it is. Like, but oh, I love the idea. I probably will do something like that. That's an easy way to experiment.
Yeah, that's a nice way of kind of raising your prices without raising like your prices, right?
Yeah, I really love it.
If we take away the monthly option and we just go to quarterly only, that also people only have to make buying decisions about ZenMaid 4 times a year, right? Whereas now it's like every month they could theoretically be getting off like the software, where a lot of people just psychologically will, oh, well, I've already paid for ZenMaid for another 2.5 months, so I'll change after 2.5 months. But if they don't change, then they're paying us for another 3. And so that's another thing that we're like thinking about, because like we're big enough to do that. We never would have done that early on. Now we have the brand name and the brand equity that like people can't complain about that now.
So I think this is definitely a strategy that we should pursue for us. I think it's easy for us to put in place, because there was another strategy that we're thinking of doing as well, which is we can create effectively a third plan. Right now we have like 2 plans, sort of like we have like the basic plan, $49, then we got the pro plan, $69. But there are some additional needs from people and so on. So we could effectively put a $99 plan, right? But we also have like the free plan. So now it's 4 plans. It's a little bit too much. But I like the idea of like putting, instead of 69, then I'm sorry, but it's $85 a month, for example, if you go on a monthly. But if you go on a quarterly, then this is still the 69. And I think that's a really nice way to also help people be more committed to your software, because that's also something we didn't talk. Like, sure, it gives you more cash up front, but it also brings you better customers, the one who actually do want to try it for 3 months, or like who are committed to the success, and then you can help them better. You can invest more resources because obviously they stay longer. So it's sort of like a virtual cycle. When we add a new plan, the idea usually is that you add a new plan and then you drop the lowest one and the price sort of shift, right? That's basically this sort of like idea, like you bump everyone else from the basic plan to the pro plan in terms of amount, of money that they're paying for the subscription. And so you end up with always more or less the same number of plans. But yeah, if you're not minding the lot of heat and bad press and so on, you could do it the intercom way, like if you're grandfathered, and then just raise the price without noticing anyone. Otherwise, there is easier way and smoother way to swallow the pill.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the other thing is just like most of the negative consequences around it are much bigger in your head than they are in reality. That I can guarantee that.
Oh no, I hate intercom. I think we all do.
What?
I think we all hate intercom. So like if I was a new business with all the heat that I hear, I probably will consider
Yeah,
very.
all that I meant is for like for people listening, like if you're thinking about like increasing your prices,
Most of them it's correct.
yeah, most of the negative stuff is completely like in your head. And that like ZenMade, for example, has a way bigger and way more active community than the vast majority of like SaaS companies that are out there. So we hear about these things a lot more. Like I guarantee that I get way more negative feedback than most people do. That like you have to remember that just because a couple
you love that,
like
right?
it doesn't mean that everyone is hating on you or anything. Like nobody cares. Everyone's in their own little world.
No. Everyone hates you. It's like it's common knowledge on Twitter, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I'm gonna keep going viral right now just because like I was defending my team. It's kind of a weird one to go viral. But yeah, like I just think that it's important to like to realize that is that most people don't care, right? That like, you know, if you're listening to this, you probably have 20 or 30 tools that are like being used to run your business in one way or another. It's usually nothing more than like an inconvenience or a blip in your day when one of those tools goes, hey, we're increasing prices. And like maybe it's by a huge enough amount that you're like, well, shit, now I got to go find another tool to replace that one. But even that is not a big deal. Like most people just don't care that you're raising your prices. So like, you know, what you make it out to be in your head is usually just like that. It's actually not that difficult to raise your prices, but think it through, be careful about it. But you know,
right.
Yeah. I will love your pricing increases. If you are listening to this episode and you tweet at me and go, hey, I raised my prices, I will send you back clapping emojis and I will be your biggest fan for 24 hours.
I'll be more discreet. I'll just heart your tweet and move on.
Yeah.
But hey, you'll get more money. So good. All right. So if you want to, you know, hit us on Twitter. We're there. And thanks, Emma, for the great cast.
Awesome.